So Superman and Lois is finally back after a somewhat brief hiatus. The show is actually going to be going on another hiatus, I believe, after next week's episode. So we're really only going to have 2 weeks of episodes in a row, this week and next week. Then probably a break, and then the final 2 episodes. Now maybe they won't actually go on break, but from what I understand, they are going on break after episode 13, which is kind of annoying that we're having so many breaks. In my opinion, I probably would just prefer that they had the episodes air pretty much straight, like in 2 halves or whatever. Do the first break back in like March, then air the rest of the episodes from then. And by that I mean they should have held the episodes and then aired them all after that, rather than breaking it up so much, because it does kind of ruin the momentum for the show. I get why they're doing it, I get why they have to do it, but I don't know, it's a little annoying to week after week be wondering if the show's going to be on or not. Honestly, this episode did not go the way I expected at all. A lot of things played out in pretty unpredictable ways, in ways that I absolutely would not have gotten at all. But real quick, I just want to ask if you can subscribe if you're not already. I make Marvel and DC videos every single week, and subscribers really help to keep up the motivation to make new videos. But yeah, this was another solid episode. The stuff with Morgan Edge, the stuff with, or Talroy stuff with Zeta Rhodes, stuff with Clark himself was all very unpredictable, and I did not expect any of it to go the way that it did. But the big thing that I was hyped about going into this episode was that John Diggle was returning. After he was in Flash last week, he was in Batwoman 3 weeks ago, I believe. Legends of Tomorrow 2 weeks ago as well. And he's going to be in Supergirl in about 2 months' time, I think. Assuming Supergirl airs the episodes as planned, then he'll be on that in about 2 months. But it was great to see him in this. He's our first serious connection to the other shows and to the wider Arrowverse, and it was just really great to see him. Although this wasn't a big cameo. It was a cameo, basically. It wasn't big, it wasn't too important. He came up with something to do that was related to the plot, but it was nothing that was like just for Diggle. It was something that easily could have been filled by a different character or a new character or whatever. Like, it didn't need to be Diggle, but I was happy it was Diggle. I've seen a lot of people say that it was pointless, that he really did not need to be in this episode, and I understand where some people are coming from, but me personally, I was happy it was him. I was just really like seeing the character, and I think it's good to kind of reaffirm that this is a serious Arrowverse show, because really we haven't had anything to say that it is. We've had a couple tiny little tiptoe references about a multiverse and about a crisis, but that was sort of it. This is the first time we've gotten a solid connection to the other shows. And Diggle even mentioned Oliver Queen, which is kind of crazy that we've had an Oliver Queen reference on the show before we even had a Kara reference. But I mean, Oliver's my favourite Arrowverse character, so it was really great to hear him get referenced. It was really nice to hear him get name dropped, especially in this show. And I love Diggle's just kind of talking to Sam Lane and being like, look, Superman is the best of us. He's the best hero we have. Oliver would have said that. And everybody else would have said that too, but Oliver would have said that. I really appreciated that. One thing that was actually really interesting is the fact that they sort of alluded to Diggle and Sam Lane having history. Now, it makes sense because, you know, Sam Lane being with the DOD, it makes sense that they would work with Argus all the time, and Diggle being Diggle and Lila both being kind of the current leaders of Argus, it makes sense that they would be in contact with people like Sam Lane pretty much every single week. But I just thought, that's something I just never really thought about, is the fact that they would have known each other for a while now. And the thing is as well, is like, that's something Crisis would have changed probably. You know, there's probably a whole history there with them that like they were talking or in contact with each other all the time during like the seasons of Arrow and whatnot. So that's really cool to kind of think about, and I would love to kind of delve into that more and see actually what is the history between the two characters, because it definitely did seem like they knew each other quite a bit. And I also loved Diggle's just complete like apprehension to John Henry Irons when he learns that he's from a different Earth and stuff. He's like, nope, had enough of that stuff, not dealing with that anymore. So that was pretty cool. But yeah, it was just really nice to see the character again. The interesting thing as well is that I'm pretty sure that this episode would place Superman and Lois in the Arrowverse timeline at least before Flash Season 7, the current arc of Flash Season 7, and probably before the end of Batwoman Season 2, because Diggle in this episode, he didn't exactly line up with what we know of his Flash appearance, what we know of his Batwoman appearance. When he shows him Batwoman, he's in Gotham because he's having a headache due to not accepting the ring. Then right after that, he goes off to Central City to help with the Godspeed War. At the end of his Flash appearance, he pretty much says, alright, I need to stop putting off this ring business and I'm going to look into it. Whereas in this episode, he's just like, I'm completely done with the life. I'm not a hero anymore. I'm not doing anything with glowing boxes or rings or whatever. So I think it's likely that this is his Superman and Lois appearance is first. Then, like, say, I don't know, a month from this episode or whatever, he starts getting the headaches, which takes him to Gotham City, which is his Batwoman appearance, and then right after that is his Flash appearance. So it would make sense. Plus, I'm pretty sure that the Superman and Lois episode probably would have aired first before the other episodes, so it makes sense that they kind of would have planned this to be, before those ones. But Superman in this episode, wasn't expecting a lot of stuff with him. They tried to put Drew Zod inside of his head, which is kind of insane. We had Zod references on Supergirl a decent bit, but he was basically in this episode. He was inside Clark's head for a little bit. He'd taken over Clark's mind. That was awesome to see, and then Steel had to beat it out of him, and we even got a little bit of Steel and Superman teaming up already. I'm sure in a season or so we'll have a proper Steel costume for John Henry Irons, and we'll see him team up with Superman much more often. But it was awesome to see them give it a little beat down on Morgan Edge, and that's another thing. Was not expecting Tal-Rho or Morgan Edge to get taken down this early. Obviously it was part of his plan or something's going on there. We don't really know what he was trying to do when he flew up into the sky with the Eradicator. He was using his heat vision to do something with it, and we're not entirely sure what it is. I personally thought he was trying to put Zeta Rho's consciousness into his head or something, and like Zeta Rho's like, alright, fine, Tal, if you can't do this, I'm going to do it myself, or something like that. Obviously, we're going to find out soon. Leslie Lara is still in the wind. They can't find her. She's probably going to have a big part to play in the final 3 episodes, so I'm excited to see what happens there. It's kind of crazy she's still sticking around, because she definitely, in her first appearance, but she was just kind of like Morgan Edge's, I don't know what, when she's in the Daily Planet or whatever, and she just tells Lois, oh, he's going to crush you, back in episode 2. I did not think that she would be this important to the overall storyline of the episode. I loved Lois telling John Henry Irons that Clark is Superman, kind of breaking down, telling him everything about him, and that was great as well. I loved that just brief moment where she's like, he's a father, he has 2 children, all of that. Another great scene like that was when Clark was trying to knock Zod's consciousness out of his head, and he's just having a flashback to a bunch of the other moments in his life where he was Superman, where he met Lois with his kids and all of that. I just love emotional scenes like that, honestly. It was really well done. And I love how John Henry Irons, for most of the episode, he was like the normal guy we knew. He's actually trying to connect with his younger sister, apparently, on this Earth. I can't remember if it said younger sister or older sister, but he's trying to connect with his sister anyway on this Earth. But I loved how he eventually came around and was like, alright, Lois loves him. He's obviously, he's more powerful than I can think of. He's not the person from my Earth sort of thing, and that was really good as well. I loved Jordan's moment where he was trying to find Clark, and he eventually did, and then Clark even did it first, pretty much, where he was like, I know Jordan's going to be able to hear me if I can yell. And he's like, I'm in the Badlands. That was really good as well. So I feel like everyone had their part to play in this episode, and I really, really, really liked that. One thing I wasn't crazy about this episode was the Cushing family, or the Lang family. Lana, Kyle, and Sarah. I did not think that their storyline this episode fit in. I don't know really what it is. It was a lot more... I get why they had it, because they don't really have much to do with those characters at the moment, since their storyline pretty much ended last episode, and I honestly did not want them to sit out the rest of the season. I was hoping they'd have something else to do, but I don't know, I didn't feel like what they were doing with them fit in this episode. I personally would have maybe left them out of this episode completely, brought them back next episode for something like this, because I don't know, it just felt like there was so much going on that they didn't really fit in this. It was a little bit contrasting to what was going on the rest of the episode tone-wise and that, which I understand, but I don't know, I just personally wouldn't have put that in there. Especially since like Diggle was barely in the episode. I might have preferred more scenes with Diggle than with them, personally. We also had confirmation of what that big red light was in the John Henry Irons flashbacks, and it's like a red sun rocket that he shot to basically take away Clark's powers, and it was like right at that moment where he got sucked to our Earth. So this basically confirms it's nothing to do with Crisis then, but I'm confused on what exactly that is. Like, was it just that there was something inside that red sun rocket that, I don't know, it created kind of a bubble in space or something, or a hole in space that he was able to just pass through to a different Earth? It was a little bit weird. I hope they explain that more. I hope this isn't something that they just kind of forget about and move on from. Because I am really interested in that. I'm wondering if, like, John Henry Irons' Earth, it's an Earth from before Crisis or after Crisis, but at the moment I'm just going to kind of assume it's from after Crisis, considering we haven't got any references to it being to do with Crisis. But yeah, there was a whole lot in this episode. It was a great episode, again, a very solid episode, just a few tiny little things like the Cushing family not really fitting in. But how did you feel about this episode? Did you like it? Did you hate it? And please remember to like, share, subscribe, and all of that if you enjoyed this video, and I hope you have an awesome day.